Ghost Simulator has many game passes, most of which are helpful to users while playing the game. In this video, I'll be creating a tier list with all the game passes and showing you guys which ones are in my opinion, the best to buy compared to which ones are completely worthless to buy. And so let's get started with the tier list. The first game pass I'll be rating is the More Agility game pass. Although you might think this game pass would be considered worthless because of the addition of jetpacks and hoverboards, it actually does quite a bit for when you're just required to move around on your own, like when you get close to ghosts or just need to move to the cell for a quick second. Because of this and its low price, I would actually consider this to be a B tier game pass and would actually be one of the ones I'd consider buying. Next up, we have the Double Range game pass. Although this one does seem like the last one to be pretty useless, it does have some use and is really helpful when you have it, although not completely necessary since you learn to live without it. Because of this, and it's also again somewhat cheap price, I would consider this another B tier game pass. Double Gems seems like a very good game pass on the surface, but during mid game you really start to notice that the majority of your gems ends up coming from conversions of currencies rather than drops from ghosts or other gem-based systems. But it really does play a large effect in the endgame grinding, which requires you to open anomaly loot bags for their gems. So because of its overall decentness and then its very useful late game, it is an A tier game pass. Double Luck is a very common game pass among many Roblox games, and it has been well known for being either too OP or really good in all games, and this game is no exception. The Double Luck game pass allows you to get 2 times the amount of good stuff from boxes without having to spend any more gems, which makes it an easy S tier game pass, even for its decent price. The next game pass, which is 2 times Ecto tokens, it's easy to see that it is a complete waste of time since Ecto tokens are really easy to gather once you get endgame, and even when you're in the beginning, it's not that hard. So this is an easy F tier and is basically worthless to buy. Although when the game first came out, it was considered the best game pass for grinding gems. 2 times Souls has a similar history to 2 times Ecto, being really good at one point for grinding gems, but has now fallen from that and is not really considered good. Although since Ghost World is somewhat expansive and it's kind of hard to get through, it is still a decent game pass for those people, but as a whole I would say it's a C tier game pass. Double items, though, is actually much different from any of their previous ones. It used to be really not worthwhile except for occasional grind, since items were completely worthless in the game, except for in quests, until Gum came along. But now that Gum's out, this is one of the best, if not the best game pass, since it allows you to get 2 times the gum while grinding without having to waste loot gum or anything like that. Although with loot gum it does make it somewhat better, although the effects stack additively, not multiplicatively, so it's not super overpowered. 2 times boss drops, on the other hand, is a new addition to the game and is really not good for newer mid-game players, since the new and mid-game bosses aren't really good for having 2 times drops from. However, it is really good for using on the final boss and the anomaly boss, and even with the event bosses that come along. So I would consider this to be A tier game pass, mostly because it is priced at 850 Robux, which is really expensive. This next game pass is probably the most controversial one that I've rated, and it's the +2 pet slots. Throughout the game, this game pass has been considered one of the better ones, since it both increases the amount of vacuum power you have and the amount of cell stats. But in my opinion, this game pass is actually not as good as you would think, since while grinding, when you're in beginning and early mid game, your pets aren't going to be as good, so you won't be able to make as much good use out of the 4th and 5th or 5th and 6th pet that you get equipped. It won't be the maximum possible 50% increase in both those stats, but will rather be closer to probably 25% in each, meaning it's not as good in that respect, and will also, since endgame now isn't required on currency grinding like it used to be, the increase in your multiplier for selling doesn't affect as much, so I would rate this as a C tier, just because it really doesn't play as much of an effect as it used to. The next 3 game passes are all related to pet storage, and because this game has recently added in some quests that give you additional pet storage for free, I'd consider both the first one plus 70 pet storage and the next one plus 150 pet storage as F tiers, since they don't add any, they don't really increase any more than you can get naturally, and since you as a beginning player, and most people won't need a lot of storage, and even the end game grinders, you don't absolutely need more storage, I would consider them to be F tier. 500 pet storage, on the other hand, is increasing beyond your normal limits, but it isn't a much for it. It's a lot, but it's way more than you ever need, so I'd still consider it to be only a C tier at best. Board storage, on the other hand, is a nice commodity to have since it isn't available in game, and many boards that you collect, you aren't collecting them for the stats that you do with pets, so you might want to keep one of each, even if they're lower quality and people really don't want to trade for them. You might want to keep it for the looks, in which case I'm going to rate the actually cheaper one, the 150 additional board storage, because that increases it by quite a bit, but it doesn't cost that much, and since you really don't need that much more than it, since there's only about 300 boards in the game right now, you don't need much more than that, so I'd rate that as an A tier game pass, while the 500, since it's really extensive and way more than anyone would need, I'd rate that as a B tier. The next game pass, Quick Unbox, is one of my favorites since it allows you to instantly skip the animation of a box once the cancel button, or once the skip button appears. It is one of the best game passes and really cheap, although it doesn't increase the amount of double luck, it doesn't increase the amount of items you get for gems. It does increase the speed at which you can get them, and is really good in cutting down the amount of time you spend unboxing. The next game pass, the auto unbox, is actually not as good as you'd think, since there's a prevalent use of auto clickers throughout the community, and since the devs haven't said one way or another on it, most people are ending up using auto clickers to unbox crates instead of buying the game pass. So it's pretty easy to see that it's a C tier game. And so this is my tier list. In the S tier, we have the double luck, double items, and quick unbox game passes. In the A tier, we have 2 times gems, 2 times boss drops, and the 150 board storage game pass. In B tier, we have more agility, double range, 500 pet storage, and the 500 board storage game passes. In the C tier, we have 2 times souls, plus 2 pet slot, and the quick unbox, or the auto unbox. In the F tier, the absolute worst game passes are times 2 ecto tokens, which I'd consider worthless, plus 70 pet storage, and plus 150 pet storage game passes. The last 2 which could be useful in some cases, but very rarely. If you guys have comments on this tier list, or have different suggestions of your own, or even want to suggest future video topics, please leave a comment down below. And this has been Highest Gaming, and I will see you guys in my next video.